Okay, in this lesson we're going to go through and have our enemies start firing at us. So just to recap things here, again we kind of went through and set up our menu system. We have our ship moving around firing, we have our enemies' ships moving around. We have multiple enemies coming out at different stages. So we can shoot our enemies, have them explode, and have multiple enemies coming out based off of time. And again, we can go through and change that at any point. So now we need to go through and start setting up our enemies shooting at us. So again, coming up to the top and looking at our enemies and going right after our enemies, we're going to go through and start bringing in the different values that we can use for bringing bullets out for our enemy ships. So basically what we can do in here is we can go through and copy. Let's see if I can copy this. That's our player bullets. Let's just bring those down and we'll change this to enemy bullets. Enemy lasers. Now again, with our enemy lasers, how many do you want them to shoot? Now since there can be multiple enemies, I'm going to bump this number up to about 40. And with these being different variables, we can't use that same variable name over and over again. So I'm just going to put an E in front of these. So it becomes the enemies. So these now belong to the enemy. Coming down in to the for loop, let's add an E for the enemy bullets. Again, capital. And the enemy temps. And instead of my lasers, this is going to be the enemy lasers. So again, that is coming out of the linkage. Make sure those are spelt the same. And then just coming in, adding an E to all of these as well. So we can go through and instead of typing everything out over and over again, we can just copy and paste. So check our syntax, everything looks good. Let's go ahead and test this. Let's pull this off to the side so we can see if we have our enemy bullets out here as well. Let's pull this up. You can see here's our enemy bullets, the single red one. Now it's not going to matter if it oversets, but this is a single enemy bullet, so we're really not too worried about it hitting itself or that enemy ship. Okay, now coming down into our game loop, we're going to add our move enemy bullet. As we know, we're going to need to create that function. And let's just go ahead and copy that. And let's scroll down. And just before our watch keys, after we check our enemies, first thing that we're going to do is actually fire the bullets and then move them. So inside here, we're going to create a function for our E-fire bullets. Again, this is going to be void because we don't need to return anything. And again, now with this, remember that we came up in here and commented this line out, so we need to uncomment that. I'm just going to copy this, make sure we have everything spelt the same. Okay, now again, on our enemy fire bullets, why don't we just come up here and look at our player fire bullets, and let's copy things. So again, I'm just going to copy this, not doing the closing function or the opening function, we already have those. Just going to come down and paste inside here. Okay, now again, all we really need to do is add an E in front of things. Whoops. Actually went into something here. Make sure I hit my shift key and not the control key. Okay, if it's off stage, do nothing. Our E current bullet is going to equal this. And this saves us a lot of time in coding. Is basically all we're really doing is copying and pasting. And our E ship. Now with this, we do need to change this because this is not how we brought out our ships. Remember, our ships are this E ship. So let's go ahead and copy that. And then come down in here and paste this. Again, we're not using ME, so instead we're going through and setting up a new variable inside here. So let's see, we have the first for loop, and we are actually going to need a second for loop in here as well. So coming back up to the top, this one here is going to be for our ships. So we need a for loop up here. It's going to be a variable, and let's call that enemy ship ES, which is going to be a number equal to 0. And ES is less than our enemy number ES plus plus. Let's put the closing or the opening bracket at the beginning. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom down here, and before the closing of our function, let's paste. Let's come up here and do this auto format. You should see everything kind of jump over into place. So now we got a for loop within a for loop. Okay. Now coming back down to changing our line down here, this is going to be ES for our enemy ships. We're not talking about the bullets, we're talking about our ships as well. Let's go through and finish this out. Our current bullet, I'm just going to copy this and let's paste this in here. And I actually need to put the .x at the end of this as well. And let's paste this down in here. And that's going to be for our enemy on the Y value. Let's change these guys. Okay, so we got the end if, and this is the end for loop of the ship. And this is our end function. So we just stay consistent by commenting each one of those. Dun, dun, dun. Let's check our syntax. That looks good. Okay. Now we need to go in and let's copy the move bullets function. So let's copy that. And let's go down after the end of this guy. Let's paste that in there. And this is actually going to be going through and setting up the move enemy bullets. So let's come back up into our game loop and make sure that we use that same name. So move E bullets. Let's come back down. There's our fire. Here's our move bullets. Just going to paste that in there. I'm going to add an E inside of here. So our enemy bullets, E, our enemies. It's still going to be undefined. And on this one, we're going to do a -15 because we're going to go from left to right. And just paste these in here. -100 on that. Still good. Okay, now with this, enemy bullets. If it's less than or if it's greater than, we want to move those off the stage. Enemy bullets, ME. Okay, now after this condition, before the closing of our function, we're going to add some more conditions in here. So if the ship dot hit test object, we're going to look at this E bullet plus MEB and double ampersand my ship destroy equals false. So with that, let's go make sure that we have set the value for my ship destroy up in the variables at the top. So just scrolling all the way up to the top. Here's the player lasers. And I don't see where I have my ship destroy, so let's go ahead and add that up in here. So we need that variable, my ship destroy. And just like this one down here, we don't need it as an array. So we're going to go through and set this up basically just as a Boolean for true false. So let's see, where'd we put it? There it is. There's our Boolean. We're going to make this equal false to begin with. Okay, so it's going to start out as a false value. Our ship is not destroyed. And I just put that where the player lasers and everything else are. So let's come back down. Here's our move. So we got our false, open curly bracket, close curly bracket. Okay, now with this, we are also going to go through, and our ship has health. So remember, we got a health meter out here. So we're going to start playing with that health meter as well. Now, inside here, we're going to say if our ship dot current label double equal signs good. That means our ship is at a good state. It hasn't been destroyed. And don't forget, we also have shields for our ship. I'm going to tell my ship health dot scale x to minus equal 0.008. So what this is saying is if a bullet hits me, I want my health meter to start shrinking. Again, my health meter is a movie clip. Notice that the registration point is on the left hand side. So it's going to scale from the right and scale down depending on where that registration point is. If the registration point was in the center, it would come in from both sides. I don't want that. I want it to scale down in size, so the registration needs to be on the left hand side. Okay, now the scale value, when we're talking about the scale X, 0 is 0%, 1 is 100%. So we need to do it in increments of point whatever. Now if you do it at 0.1, 0.2, well, that's 10%. So it's going to scale down a lot faster. So you can go through and adjust this number to whatever you want. This just gives me more life. I could take that down to 0.01, but I found that to be a little too fast for me. So 0.8 works for me. Find a number that works for you. Going to go after this and say else, curly bracket. So open and closing. I'm going to take my ship health. Again, make sure that it's spelled the same. Dot scale x minus equal 0.001. Well, if my ship gets hit and it's on the current label good, it's going to go down a little bit. But if the label is not on good, it's something else. So the only other possibility where my destroy ship is equal to false is when my shields are turned on. So if my shields are turned on, I don't want my health to go down as fast. So that's why I'm giving it a lower value. After this, I'm going to tell my e-bullet plus MEB dot X to equal a negative 100. It hit me, move it off the stage. Then my aim X MEB to equal 0. Okay, so let's see. We have our move bullets. We have our fire bullets. Let's check our syntax. Syntax is good. Let's test this. Make sure we don't have any other errors that might pop up. Our ships are shooting at us. If I get hit, notice those shields going down pretty quickly, even at 0.8. Okay. Now, if they destroy us, we need to go through and tell it. Oh, notice that up here, every time we get hit, that value is going down further and further. So Whoops, let's get out of this one. We don't want this one. Don't need to be into debug mode. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of bring this over a little bit. Stretch this out so we can watch that. So as we get hit, if it goes down past 0, it starts climbing back the opposite way. So what we need to do is go through and set up our player lives, tell our ship to get destroyed, reset the value, and we're going to remove one of these lives. Okay, so we'll do that in the next video. Start dealing with the player lives and how it gets destroyed. Okay, so we'll see you in the next video.